Hey, how you doing? Hope all's well. We just had these big storms come through, and it's been a little bit of a crazy October, but we're back on track now. And I wanted to go over the election. Okay, not specifically like who I want to win or what will happen if one person wins versus the other, because that doesn't matter when it comes to real estate. But does it really impact the market? Or is it just something else that we need to kind of look into and see what happens and then overlook it for a while? Well, here's my take on it. There is, there's a group that will say that that their candidate will win. It'll spike the market. They're waiting to sell or they're waiting to buy until after their candidate wins. And yes, that is a portion of it, but it's a very small portion of people that think like that. For the most part, people buy because they have to buy, or they're buying because it's convenient. They want some kind of an investment or a second home or something like that. Selling, same thing. People sell because they have to sell, or they sell because there's an opportunity there for them to make money, so they're going to take it. All right, that's the main reasons that people move around in the real estate market. Now, the president comes in and they what they can really impact, or a few things. Okay, number one, people's ability to borrow money is affected by a president. All right, but they don't directly affect that. The president doesn't come in and go, "I want interest rates down to 3%." They can't do that. It's the federal government that controls that. They can only implement things that will encourage the federal government to reduce interest rates. Okay, and secondly, they can do things like that impact people's incomes. All right, they can do things that either hurt their income because they have to spend more money on other items, or they can do things that cheapen items from the purchase, and they can do things that implement higher incomes in certain areas of the country and certain states and whatnot, depending on the state laws and what goes on in those states specifically. But they can do things to create jobs, to create more income, to create more prosperity. That they can do. Now, when it comes to these elections, the no matter what they do, if they had either candidate, if they said, "I'm going to be hyper focused on one thing, and that's making sure that the Florida real estate market recovers." Okay, that's my only focus. All right, they really can impact that in those two ways. They can try to make money more available and cheaper to borrow, and they can also try to do things to implement higher incomes and bring down the expenses of everything else that you purchase. Okay, and they can make money cheaper to access. That's what they can do. Now, if they do this, if that was their number one priority that they were running their election on, is to get the house prices and to get affordability in place in Florida, even then, if they implemented everything they could to try to make that happen, there's still going to be a lag effect, okay? It still takes time for the federal government to come around and to reduce rates. It still takes time for whatever they implement to reduce prices of goods and services that people are going to want to buy. Okay, and it still takes time for them for the incomes that they want to rise, for that to actually be implemented, because competition and the things that people are going to use to hire other employees, that for employees to go out and seek more jobs, all that stuff, it doesn't happen overnight. So no matter what they implement, it's going to take a while to come into effect. So there's going to be a long lag effect, and I'd say it's at least a minimum of 1 year. No matter what they implement, it's going to be at least a minimum of 1 year. Okay, so the reality is that making a decision to sell or to buy based on the outcome of an election right off the bat is not the best logical way to go about doing to go about pulling the trigger, whether you want to buy or whether you want to sell. It's just an indicator of positive or negative. But if you think about it, elections are pretty close to 50-50. 50% agree with one person, 50% agree with the other person. So just as many people that agree that they want to do something, there's going to be just as many people that disagree, right? So they're going to say, yeah. If my candidate wins, I'm going to list my house. The other person might say, well, I will list my house, but if my candidate doesn't win, I'm not going to list my house because I'm afraid of what will happen. So there's really that goes on with it too. Ultimately, what it comes down to is three things. Number one, how much inventory is on the market. Number two, how long are those houses on the market for? And number three, how many of those homes are having price reductions? If you know the actual data, you can see what's coming up over the next 3 to 6 months very easily just by knowing that, because those are either upward pressure or those are downward pressure on the market, and it's the only thing that really dictates which way the market's going locally. That's what happens. Now, anyways, hope you guys are doing good, and I don't know what we'll talk about next month, but this is the topic on everybody's minds right now because the election's coming up. But to me, it's not going to do a whole lot of impact, at least right off the bat, for real estate. And maybe over time you'll see some changes. I'm sure, one way or the other, just depending on who you agree with and who ultimately gets elected. That could have an impact, but we won't know. We won't know if it impacts anything for in real estate for a few years. So just take it day by day, and remember, focus on the inventory, the time on market, and the price cut percentages, because that is what is going to dictate the market. Okay? All right, guys. Take care. I'll talk to you later.